Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Yeah, you know what it is. Hard worker, scrappy, unfiltered, and sometimes unhinged football content. Hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Doing it daily our way. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Redraft and Dynasty Fantasy Football, we got you covered. You know their defense is ranked like 31st in the NFL? NFL draft prospects and rookies? Now you know you in the right place for that.
Absolutely.
All right, then stop saying it. Then we're done. And prop bets with my man JRich. Count that money, man. Now wipe the crust out of your eyes. Get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake your ass up with Ray G. You honestly are making absolutely no sense and you sound silly as hell. I try to tell the people, Jay. I try to tell y'all. I try to tell you. I tried to tell you. Here we go. How about them damn Cowboys, baby? GMGP. It is Monday, December 11th, 2023. Y'all decided to wake y'all asses up with Ray G, and y'all know I appreciate you being in the building, especially after we put JRich, foot in the Philadelphia Eagles' ass yesterday. Yes, where's my man at? What's his name? Where was he at? Where's our friend at? That said that the Dallas fans were annoying. Where is he at? I need him in the building this morning. Happy y'all are here. Patrick, what's happening with you? Rubio, Mike in the building. Hunter, Joe Green. Who else we got? EB, Eric Bryant, Oliver, DJ, Ty DeClaire, Marlon, Roe, Jimbo. What's cracking him, baby? It's a good day. It's a good day to be a fan of sports. It's a good day to be a fan of football. It's a good day to be a Dallas Cowboy, JRich. It's a good day to be a Cowboy. I'm feeling good this morning. JRich, how are you this morning, my friend? Let's bring you to the building. How you doing, baby?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm glad you're feeling good. I'm glad you're feeling confident. Obviously, big win yesterday. I feel like I was more confident than you were that Dallas was going to beat down the Eagles.
Stop.
Go back, roll the tape, man. I was like, I think I said 50 on the show, and honestly, it was even worse than the score kind of indicated, but congrats to you and your Cowboys. Got a big dub. Honestly, great weekend of football. We said the Rams and Ravens were going to be good. That game was obviously unreal. Chiefs and Bills was great. Man, a lot of good football this weekend. Even the Bucks and Falcons, down to the wire. We had a Ritter game, baby. I was loving it. but it was a good weekend of football, so I was feeling it. We had a good week. And then you dropped a video yesterday as well. Yes. Doing a little 1QB mock for the 1QB people. I don't know why we keep doing them, but you better run up the numbers because I'm a Superflex guy, you're a Superflex guy. So the 1QB people better run up those numbers because look at that, 7 receivers in round 1. Sounds kind of crazy, but watch, Jay, and we'll see.
You know, when I was doing the mock last night, it felt crazy to do it. It truly felt crazy to do a rookie mock without quarterbacks in round 1. And it's just receivers galore. And that makes you feel good because you're like, this is a strong receiver class here in 2024. But then you're also like, God forbid, I just don't want to pick the wrong one because I know all 15 of them aren't going to be dope. You know for a fact that all 8 of them that go in the first round, they're not all going to be stars, and you're just hoping you don't pick the one that is the absolute bust. And that's going to be hard. That is going to be a very difficult thing to decipher and parse through this draft season, but we got a lot of time to talk rookies. We have both been approved. We're going to the Senior Bowl. We also are bringing Scott Connor. Scott's coming to Mobile with us. I didn't know you did. I didn't even think you knew that.
I didn't know that.
I convinced him to come down to Mobile, so he'll be at the Senior Bowl, so we'll all be there, be able to scout these guys in person, but it's tough, man. So check out the rookie mock. We've got Scott that dropped a wide receiver construction podcast piece on the radio feed. Jeff Mueller did the injury stuff for week 14. We've got college football transfer portal things that dropped on the channel. So make sure you go to Destination Devy radio feed. Check out all the content over there as well as on the website, destinationdevy.com. Trinity Tracker updated. War Tool, extreme use and importance right now, especially as you're inching towards the final close of the 2023 fantasy season. Real quick, JRich, how'd that Scott Fishbowl team do?
Ooh, rough week for the Scott Fishbowl roster. Another rough week for Amon-Ra St. Brown, and we will talk about that a little bit. But Ray, your boy, the main man, Mr. 59, Mr. 60, Brandon Aubrey, 31 points in Scott Fishbowl, carrying my team right now. He's only guy who scored more on my team than him was Dak Prescott. It was crazy.
Boomed a 60-yarder, turned around and boomed a 59-yarder, 28-year-old rookie. What an amazing story Brandon Aubrey is. We will talk a lot about the Dallas Cowboys, Jay, but I don't know if you saw the news. There was a Heisman Trophy winner crowned in the collegiate ranks, man. Jayden Daniels, Heisman Trophy winner 2023. Jayden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU, took it home, beat out Marvin Harrison Jr., beat out Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. to win the nation's most outstanding and electric football player this college season, Jay. Now you're starting to see all the Devy analysts pull out those 2019 receipts talking about, I knew Jayden Daniels was going to be a beast. Just your thoughts on his season and what you expect to see through the pre-draft process for Jayden Daniels.
I'm actually very intrigued, right? He's a guy that I'd say now is cemented as QB3. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the QB3 to emerge. We thought it could be Quinn Ewers early in the year. Obviously, he's going to be going back to Texas. Now it's going to be Jayden Daniels. The question is not a matter of if, but when he gets drafted, right? How high? Is it top 10? Is it top 7? Is it higher than that? I think that's the biggest question is where's that draft capital? I think at this point, though, being the QB3, probably being that guy, he's probably going to go in the top 10, top 15, at which point you really want him for fantasy. Obviously, love the dual threat ability. His progression from his time as a true freshman starting at Arizona State to now what he's done at LSU was phenomenal. Definitely deserved the Heisman. The dual threat ability for fantasy football is going to be great. And I do think he will be very good at the NFL level. He does, kind of remind me as a better passing version of Lamar Jackson coming out of college. And part of it is probably just that experience, right? To be in college for so long, to develop, to play under multiple coaching staffs, having the ability to become a better player. He seems like just a more refined version of what that could be. And I hope to see it play out at the NFL level. How are you feeling about Daniels? Because I know that's your guy, right?
That's my boy. That's my boy. I'm excited for him. I think he's going to be a big riser. You're saying top 15. I think he's locked inside the top 10. So let's take a look at that top 10 really quickly, Jay. Draft order pending Monday Night Football. We got 2 games on tonight. But right now, this is what we're looking like 2024 NFL Draft. Chicago Bears picking first. New England Patriots at 2, and the Arizona Cardinals picking 3rd. Commanders 4, and the New York Giants rounding out the top 5, followed by Tennessee, Chicago, their own pick, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Jets, and the Chargers. Looking at this draft order last night when I did the single quarterback mock, kind of went through and thought where the quarterbacks could land. I've been on record saying that I do believe Chicago today, December 11th, is going to take a quarterback. We'll talk about them in a little bit. And if they do, Jay, I've been on record of saying I believe it'll be Drake May. Just something in my gut feels like they would go Drake May.
You still think it's going to be Drake May?
I think they would take Drake. Somehow they would talk themselves into Drake May, which leaves Caleb Williams in New England, Marv going to Arizona, and then the fun starts at Washington. I mocked the quarterback at Washington a couple of weeks ago. Commanders fans said, no way, Ray. We need offensive line help. So no Jayden Daniels in Washington. Then we look at it, Jay, like realistically, they're probably going to roll out Daniel Jones. So I don't know if the Giants would take a quarterback there. Tennessee, do they roll with Levis or do they take a quarterback? Chicago, they've already drafted one, so they go O-line. Looks like the first upcoming spot that you could peg a quarterback to would be the Las Vegas Raiders, who scored 0 points yesterday versus the Vikings in an awful game. Got the Jets and then the Chargers. Both of those teams probably not a priority to take a quarterback. So pending Monday Night Football, here's the top 10 order. Let us know what you think these teams should do inside the top 10, Jay. But we got a lot of fantasy stuff to get to. Got a little bit of news, so let's go ahead and roll into it, Jay. Straight facts. Let's go.
The biggest news in the world of sports. Covered and brought to you by one man, Jordan Richards. This is Straight Facts.
Ray, you talked about those Los Angeles Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders. They actually play on Thursday night, so one team will be going up in those rankings very shortly. But talking about the Chargers, they did lose their quarterback, Justin Herbert. He fractured a finger. It was his index finger last night in the game. Probably going to be out for the season. I mean, the way it's playing right now for the Chargers, there's no reason for him to come back. He's probably going to miss multiple weeks and will require surgery on that finger, at which point their season is over. And I think, Ray, the interesting thing about the Chargers, right, you have them at 10 right now. If they continue to fall down the ranks, which they definitely could, because going from the Chargers at 10, who are 5-8, all the way down to Washington, who are the 4th overall pick, are 4-9 right now. one game separating those, 6 slots. So it's a great spot for them to potentially right the wrong that was Quentin Johnston in the NFL draft and draft a potential Malik Neighbors. But getting back to the injuries, we have Jake Browning, who was dealing with a cramp in his finger. People saw him grabbing at his thumb and stuff during the game. He's going to be okay. He was just dealing with a bit of cramping. CJ Stroud was knocked out of the game against the Jets. He didn't play particularly well anyways, but he suffered a concussion and could miss week 15. As we've seen through recent weeks, it's not impossible for him to get back on the field. It's just very unlikely. Obviously, Derek Carr came back, and he still looked like shit. So we don't really want CJ to come back unless he's fully healthy. But if he does come back, they are playing the Titans, so it isn't a pretty decent matchup when you talk about a quarterback versus obviously a pretty porous Tennessee Titans defense. You have Josh Jacobs, who suffered a knee injury. We don't know the extent of the injury just yet, but the way the Raiders are trending and Thursday Night Football, probably not going to be playing on Thursday, and we don't even know if he's going to be back at all. We talked about this with Jacobs probably the most of any of the running backs who held out. He's the guy that we would peg as one that could sit out the last few games of the season, and it's looking like that could be more of a possibility now with this new knee injury. Alexander Madison suffered what looks like a high ankle sprain, still waiting on diagnosis for that. So he could be missing potentially even the rest of the season, but at least a couple of weeks, at which point it would be Ty Chandler who takes over the primary rushing duties there. We have Justin Jefferson, who took a hard hit in the chest. He went to the hospital to get checked up on. He is suspected to have bruised ribs right now. We don't have an official diagnosis on Jefferson, but he could be missing week 15, at which point he could potentially return in week 16. The question is, can he handle the pain? It's more of a pain tolerance issue, assuming that it is those bruised ribs and there's no other issues beyond that. He was able to fly home with the team, which is a good sign that it wasn't too severe, and we'll have to monitor that situation. Nico Collins was knocked out of the Jets-Texans game with a calf injury early on. We'll see about his status. It is going to potentially be a re-aggravation of a November calf injury, so he may be missing a couple of weeks beyond what we're already seeing. So even if CJ does come back, he could be without Tank Dell and Nico Collins. Obviously great for Noah Brown, but not so great for CJ Stroud, especially after we saw how he looked when Nico Collins went out. And then Dalton Kincaid suffered what looks like to be a mild AC joint sprain, but he should be available for week 15. And as you mentioned, Jaden Daniels won the Heisman Trophy, and Marvin Harrison Jr. won the Blitnikoff. Do you think that Malik Neighbors got robbed? Because absolutely. I sort of think he did.
Yes,
They're right in the wrong of last season, giving it to Jalen Hyatt over Marv.
They did,
and it's ridiculous.
They did him dirty. They did him dirty. They said
you.
Marv won by 1 vote, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, Jay. Here's the reality. The moment he was announced a Heisman finalist, that pretty much solidified.
Yeah, that's fair.
Had you can't have one of the 4 Heisman Trophy finalists not win the best positional award. So somehow he beats out Malik Neighbors by 1 vote. I think it was horse crap, but
I talked about it on my thing. I was like, there's no way. The stats just, I thought it was crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. But it's Marvin Harrison Jr. It comes once in a lifetime, so they had to do it. But you talked about some of the games, Jay, and I want to get through some of the quick hitters, and then we'll get to the main storyline a little bit later. Let's start off with Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Tampa Bay wins 29-25 against the Atlanta Falcons. We kind of talked about this game, Jay. And inside this game, Desmond Ridder did have a day. You talk about him, he threw it was a weird pick six. Kyle Pitts didn't block. They tried to run a smoke screen to Bijan. The corner sat on it. I think it was Carlton Davis, jumped the route. It was right towards their end zone anyway. He walks into the end zone for a touchdown. But outside of that, they let him air it out. 347 yards, 1 touchdown, also scored on the ground. He was dominant. We said, which one do you start? Drake London or Kyle Pitts? The answer was both, because both of them balled the hell out. Kyle Pitts had a touchdown. Drake London went for a $172 with a beautiful downfield catch. I don't know if you saw him reaching over the guys.
Snatching it,
That's Drake London. Reel me back in, Drake. Reel me back in. Drake London was dope in the running game. I mean, Bijan Robinson scored on the ground, but 10 for 34. Algier had 9 for 40. It's a split backfield as far as rush attempts goes. Bijan did give you 5 for 54 through the air. So if you started him, you got your points. You got your touchdown. You got 30 yards on the ground, 50 yards to the air, 80, 90 total yards and a touchdown. You'll take that. Other side of the ball, Shad White continues to carry the rock like an absolute bell cow. And after going ballistic for what it feels like an eternity, Mike Evans came crashing back down to earth. My goodness, Baker Mayfield, 2 touchdowns, but only 144 yards. And Mike Evans caught a grand total of 1 pass for 8 yards. So if you started him this week needing to get into win this matchup, must-win game, Mike Evans nor Chris Godwin really got it done for you. Nobody on the Tampa Bay pass catchers. Cade Otton caught a touchdown, But other than that, Jay, it was Rachaad White, Rachaad White, Rachaad White. Anything else from this game that we need to touch on, or can we move on to Houston and New York?
We can move on. It was really surprising, though, to see Chris Godwin get so many targets. I talked about K. Dotton and how they've been targeting the tight end so much against the Atlanta Falcons, and it just so happened they decided to use Chris Godwin instead, who hasn't gotten the ball in like 3 weeks. So that was great for fantasy football. But yeah, you hit it. It's Rachaad White, who had, 27 opportunities, 25 on the ground. Absolutely ridiculous. Tampa Bay just trying to win that division. 6-7 in the playoffs, leading the division. We'll see who wins that one. It's going to be close towards the end.
All right, Jay, we won't spend a lot of time on this next matchup either. The Houston Texans got beat down. My goodness. Ugh. And you asked me too. You're like, Ray, are you not concerned about this New York Jets pass defense? Hell no, Jay. Firing up Stroud with full confidence, baby.
Yeah.
Jay, in the third quarter, they had a grand total of -1 passing yards in the third quarter. Awful game from C.J. Stroud, who finished with 91 yards, was sacked 4 times, should have thrown about 3 interceptions. He was bad. He did lose Nico Collins early in this game. He came in without Tank Dell. And this just goes to show you, folks, there are very few like legitimate Mack trucks that can just carry anything. It just can't. You need weapons. So when you're out there slandering Dak and Brock Purdy, understand that even the best of the best needs some help. Zach Wilson was, dare I say, surgical. He was pretty freaking good. If you watch the game,
he was really good.
I'm not saying this is a trend, but he was very good. 300 yards passing, no interceptions, took 4 sacks, but he was making all the throws. Inclement weather, he looked phenomenal. And their wide receiver 1, Breece Hall, he also looked awesome. 8 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Alpha. He will be added to the Trinity tracker, the only running back included, because he is being used like a wide receiver right now, and you got to love it. Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver 2 for the Jets, 9 for 108. Good job by Garrett Wilson. Hopefully he can become the alpha over Breece Hall at some point.
He had 14 targets.
Breece, I know. I'm trolling, man. Breece didn't do anything on the ground because the Jets can't run the ball. They can't block. Now on the other side of the ball, Devin Singletary is the guy. Apparently, Dameon Pierce, nothing for Dameon Pierce yesterday. It was a Devin Singletary game. He scored a touchdown. Brevin Jordan caught a couple of passes, but there's not much to take away from this matchup. Besides, Houston needs some more talent, needs some more weapons. C.J. Stroud, get him some more, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny to see that it took Zach Wilson to unlock Garrett Wilson. People said, oh, it's got to be another quarterback. It can't get any worse than Zach Wilson. It's like, well, it can get a lot better if Zach Wilson just plays free. And there was a lot of quotes about Zach Wilson coming out of the Jets locker room talking about how he just said, what's the worst thing that happens? I get benched again. Like, he just went out there, played free, threw the ball, ripped it, and he was great. And I think this is the biggest problem when you look at Zach Wilson, because you do see these pockets of moments in the NFL for him. And this is against a pretty solid defense in the Houston Texans. So you have to wonder, like, there's a GM seeing this and saying, if the Jets cut him, like, I'm bringing him in, because there is potential here. It's a confidence issue clearly for this kid. And I think, you look at what happened throughout his whole career so far, and it's like, how could you not feel bad for him? Because he constantly gets beat down over and over and over. And it's like, he isn't afforded a bad game, right? When he has a bad game, he gets crucified. Now he has a good game, but I feel like no one's really going to prop him up outside of that locker room, right? So we'll see what happens, but it was definitely encouraging for him. And for everyone who owns Garrett Wilson, rejoice, because Zach Wilson may actually be the answer after all.
The Carolina Panthers lost 6-28 to the New Orleans Saints. Jay, real quick, if somebody wake up, fam, how many quarterbacks threw for sub 200 yards this week? It felt like every damn quarterback had 100 and something passing yards. This one was no different. Derek Carr, 119. Bryce Young, 137. Woof. Just in a game. We went through 2 games, 2 NFC South games already. We went through the NFC South, Jay. Panthers, Saints, the Falcons, and the Bucks. Who's the best team in that division? Just close your eyes and pick one. Who is the best team in this division? Because I'm watching this game, and I'm looking at Carolina's defense, and I'm like, man, if they had an offense to complement some of the things that they do well on defense, how good could this team be, or how much better would they be? And then you look at the Saints. Now, I'm going to just say this, man. Derek Carr, he seems like the cat that he just somehow gets his ass punched in the face at work. He just seems like a punk a straight up punk, dude. This dude's yelling at everybody. It's always somebody else's fault. And finally, some of the New Orleans Saints, they went ahead and barked back at Derek Carr and let him know, nah, bruh, you're stinking it up. You're up here getting on us, and you're ripping receivers, and you're ripping linemen. Feels like a straight up punk, dude. Somebody that needs to just get punched in his mouth one good time. He was awful in this game. He threw 2 touchdown passes, but he was terrible. If you watch the game, a man didn't do anything, was limping around out there. I know his arm is messed up. Sit him. Put Jameis Winston in the game. The Saints won, but it was not a pretty matchup. They got the dub. They improved their record to 6-7 on the other side of the ball. Chuba Hubbard was the bell cow. Miles Sanders actually played and looked pretty damn good when they gave him some opportunity. But the same problems persist. Bryce Young, no time to throw, can't make the throws, didn't throw any picks, did get hit, fumbled the ball, turned it over to the Saints. This offense is bad. The play calling is bad. They need a full clean house in Carolina. I don't know what to say. It's rough, Jay. Adam Thielen led the team from a production standpoint. Chuba Hubbard, Adam Thielen, they did their jobs for you. The other side of the ball, Alvin Kamara did his job for you. Other than that, really wasn't much to talk about. Olave scored a touchdown pass, but that was it, man. There was just nothing else from this game to talk about fantasy-wise.
Yeah, it was a gross matchup. And you talked about who's the best team in the NFC South. I still believe it's the Saints. You look at this defense and the way they played overall, they definitely are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFC South, but it's Derek Carr holding this team back. It's so obvious when you watch, like they can't do anything on offense. He doesn't throw the ball more than like 10 yards down the field outside of one shot to A.T. Perry of all people. You have basically every receiver on the team under 30 yards outside of A.T. Perry who caught that one long bomb down the field. And everything else is dump-offs. Alvin Kamara should not be having 3 receptions for negative 11 yards. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So you just look at this offense and you say, they would be so much better if they had a competent quarterback. Maybe the answer isn't Jameis, but they have to be better. They have to figure something out. And they can't come back with Derek Carr. You got the offensive line mad. We saw the thing that happened with Olave against Jacksonville, right? Down the sideline, and Mike Thomas coming in his defense. He's lost the locker room. It's very, very clear. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't get benched. I just don't think that Pete Carmichael has the stones to make that move. But I think you're seeing it play in week in and week out. The Panthers, they're a dumpster fire, man. There's no saving this team. But we've been saying this for weeks. Like, nothing's going to change on this team until they figure something out, and it's not going to happen this year. It's just not. And so, unfortunately for them, they traded their first-round pick, and it's going to be the number 1 overall pick because no one's catching the Panthers this year. There's no way.
And here's the thing. We've made a lot of excuses for Bryce Young. He's got to play better. He ran the ball 3 for 40. There was one play, man. He dropped back to throw the ball. He moved. I mean, this team is bad. It's a bad situation, Jay. I don't know who takes this over. Everyone's all Ben Johnson. If I'm Ben Johnson, I'm like, man, do I really want to go there? Do I really want to deal with this type of rebuild? I know they've got capital. They lost that first-round draft pick. They do have a high second, but this is a bad situation here in Carolina. They should not win a game this season. So if you're looking for a free square, if you're taking some bets, you need a juice cutter on the money line. Whoever's playing Carolina, just take them on the money line because this team looks very, very bad, Jay. An entertaining game, or at least one we thought would be pretty entertaining when we talked about it on Friday, the Indianapolis Colts versus the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals beat the Colts 34-14. We talked about people should start Gardner Minshew over Jake Browning, Jay, and Jake Browning is he is the man. He is getting it done, Joe Burrow-esque, and he had to leave the game with the thumb cramps that you talked about. 250s, 275, 2 touchdowns, no sacks, 1 interception. Minshew had 240 and a touchdown as well, but you talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, they look competent. This is with Jamar Chase not doing much of anything in this game. Chase Brown, big in the receiving game, caught a 50-something yard screenplay early in that game. Joe Mixon pounded the rock on the ground, 79 yards, 1 touchdown, and defensively they were able to cause a fumble. Isaiah McKenzie coughed the ball up. Gardner Minshew threw an interception. They could not run the ball. Zach Moss gave you absolutely nothing if you started him. What a dud. Zach Moss, with the increased opportunity, just did not look the same as he did earlier this season. We were depending on that. Didn't come to fruition. T. Higgins, big catch towards, believe it was towards the end of the game where he caught the long pass, but only 2 catches, 72 yards. You either started Browning and got the production. You had Chase Brown and best ball, their desperation start, and you got the touchdown. Joe Mixon were the guys that you really wanted to play from the Cincinnati side of the ball. And then I continue to go to it, Jay. We had the conversation last week. Michael Pittman Jr., I think he's a star. Another 11 targets, 8 receptions, 95 yards, just gobbling up targets, volume, opportunity. He's a damn good player. But outside of that, again, not much to take away from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it sucked that Gardner couldn't get a second touchdown because that probably would have saved his day.
Yes.
Still had 39 attempts, so the process was there.
Yes.
Jake Browning, I mean, 18 for 24 for 275, and all the fantasy assets did basically nothing, which is crazy because no one's starting Chase Brown, and obviously he was a big part of that. He had 80 yards. T. Higgins was fine, but, 9 points, okay, whatever. Mixon was great, though, and I think that's the big thing is that we talked about how the Bengals should be attacking the Colts on the ground, and Mixon was pretty good, obviously getting that done, and Browning did his thing as well. The question is like, how long am I going to ride this Browning train? Are we starting him next week? And I think that's the biggest problem.
Versus
I wouldn't
Minnesota,
say
it's a great matchup. It's a great matchup.
It's a good
great
matchup. But I don't know, like, Ray, where are you at with Jake Browning? Like, how do you feel about him? It's the fantasy playoffs now. And obviously, we'll talk about it on Friday as well.
He's been good every time he's rolled out there for Cincinnati. So there's a smash matchup to where he should have a lot of success against this Minnesota Vikings team. Yeah, you're starting him if you have to. We can go through the list of quarterbacks.
There's a lot of hurt quarterbacks right now.
A lot of hurt quarterbacks. So I think you have to start Jake Browning, Jay. Let's go to the Minnesota Raiders game, 3-0. Takeaways. It was
Nick
fun.
Mullins, please.
Well, what I was going to say is the Josh Dobbs experience was a fun ride. Glad to support the Pastronaut, but his time looks like it is up. This is why he's been on 35 different teams in 7 years. Nick Mullins came in replace of him, and they were both mid. They're both mid-level, mid-average to below-average backup quarterbacks. Aiden O'Connell, they need a new quarterback in Las Vegas as well. You touched on Josh Jacobs' knee injury. Hopefully he's okay, but he was limping pretty badly at the end of that game. Madison, damn it, man, high ankle sprain. He was running the ball well, too. He was running the ball well, but you're saying potentially high ankle sprain for him. Hawkinson, Jefferson got hurt. That stinks. Devontae Adams got all the targets. We know that's what's going to happen. Just not efficient targets, but 7 for 53. That's fine. You'll take it. Jacoby Myers didn't do much for you. Nothing from Michael Mayer. Jay, Addison, again, we continue to talk about him being ranked as high as he is in these dynasty rankings, Jay, top 12.
Yep.
I would have been selling 2, 3, 4 weeks ago when he reached those type of heights. He didn't do anything in this matchup. I don't know what to take away from this one, Jay, besides these are two bad teams. Start Devontae Adams every week. Monitor the Josh Jacobs situation. Jacoby Myers, if you have to, I guess with Aiden O'Connell, you're throwing him out there as well. But it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence outside of Devontae Adams and on the Minnesota side of the ball, outside of Hawkinson, Jefferson.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. In a week where there was rain, there was wind, there was poor conditions, this was the lowest scoring game in the beautiful dome in Las Vegas. It's absolutely ridiculous that these teams can only muster up 3 points. Fantasy takeaways, as you mentioned, there's nothing to take away. It really is. I think if Ty Chandler is for some reason available, like, definitely go and get him because he's going to have a role on this team. Now, he didn't run the ball particularly well, only 2.9 a carry when Madison did go out or when he was spelling Madison, which is difficult, but I do think he can do things in the receiving game. And more importantly, if Nick Mullins is the starter, we have to have way more confidence in him than Josh Dobbs at this point and pray that he can get the ball to his receivers because Josh Dobbs could not. For a few weeks, it was fine. It was working out, and then it just hit the fan last week. This week wasn't any better, so they're going to move forward with Nick Mullins, so another guy, to pick up off waivers, make sure you have on your rosters. Probably should have done that already, but you can only trust Hawkinson at this point. Like, even if Jefferson comes back, you can trust him and you're going to play him because he's Justin Jefferson, but I mean, Addison, I don't want to play now that Jefferson's back. And like you mentioned, it's really just Adams. And even with Jacobs, like Jacobs wasn't good, even though he got hurt, like he still wasn't good either way. So I don't really trust Josh Jacobs and having all year. He's had a couple good games, but I think with the Vikings, it's just, they're going to air the ball out probably, especially if Madison is hurt, which is good. But I still think you can really only trust Hawkinson and Jefferson going forward.
All right, Jay, we had an AFC West matchup. Denver beats the Chargers 24-7. In this matchup, we already talked about Justin Herbert being down with the broken thumb, hand, something on his hand.
Index finger.
He's probably done for the season. So we saw Easton Stick come in at quarterback, and he threw the ball fine. I mean, He threw the ball fine. He threw the ball fine for coming in cold. Russell Wilson, another 2 touchdowns. It was funny. If you were watching the broadcast of that game, every time they would go to break, they were playing like Sierra 1-2 step. They were playing Sierra songs. Just petty and childish from the Fox crew. But Russell Wilson, 224, 2 touchdowns through the air. My big takeaway is Javonte Williams looks back. I know a lot of people have not been talking about him, but he looks good. Catching the ball, running the ball, the explosiveness. I know there was a lot of fear and concern about his career being over with the torn ACL and the knee, but he looks good. Like, just watch him, like, man, Javonte Williams, I want some shares of that going into next year, especially if I can buy him at a reduced cost. The wide receiver 1 for Denver. We talked about Jerry Jeudy and JRich. You said unequivocally, do not start him. Hell no, I'm not starting Jerry Jeudy. And he couldn't keep his foot in to get the touchdown when Russell Wilson found him. Foot was not inbounds. Cortland Sutton, the wide receiver 1, another sub-5 catch game, but somehow he gets a touchdown, 60 yards. That was good for you. On the Chargers side of the ball, pay the man some respect. Quentin Johnston quietly has put together back-to-back positive performances, led the team in receiving this week, didn't drop the ball this game. Austin Eckler gets demoted. They used some Isaiah Spiller, used some more Josh Kelly. And wouldn't you know, Austin Eckler has one of his better performances that we've seen. 50 yards on the ground, a touchdown, caught 5 passes. Keenan Allen, 6 for 68, gobbling up those targets like he normally does. This is it for Brandon Staley. Does he still have a job right now? Does he still have a job right now?
Here's the question, right? And this is the biggest problem because we've talked about him. He's a cockroach, right? He always finds a way to survive. Does this injury help him keep his job? Because maybe they could have went down and won a game and made a playoff push and the AFC's wide open.
He needs to go.
He does need to go. But I do fear that there is a very, very small chance that he keeps his job because of this injury. Very small chance. Very, very small. But the defense played like shit. It's really just Denver, right? Denver's defense, people need to understand the beginning of the season is over. It's a new day in Denver, and they have a top 3 defense probably in the NFL right now. Sean Payton won 5 of the last 6 games, and I believe he's in the top 6 right now for Coach of the Year odds because he is coaching the heck out of the Denver Broncos right now.
He's coaching the heck out of his team, especially depending from where they started and the narrative around this team at the beginning of the season. I know.
Now they're 7-6.
He's coaching his ass off. Let me ask you, is he worth the pick? Is he worth the pick that they gave up to get him? Because people are like, you don't trade that.
Okay. 100%. Yeah. And it's, you see it now, right? You see what Hackett's doing in New York and you see what Sean Payton's doing and you're like, holy hell, it's a lot to give up. But coach. Man, Russell Wilson looks like a competent quarterback, and that's exactly what you needed. You needed Russell Wilson to not fail because you already gave up so much to get him. So you had to, swallow your pride, right the wrong, and get Sean Payton, and clearly it was the right decision. Clearly it was.
I agree, Jay. I agree with you. It is,
and I think they're only 1 game back of division too.
You anything's possible. The way that Kansas City's playing right now and the things that are happening, we'll see it. What it does is it keeps the pressure on the Chiefs, right? This means they've got to play. They can't let off the gas. So they have done a good job. Sean Payton has done a good job getting that team ready to play. And it was another good decision for the Cleveland Browns to roll with Joe Flacco again, Jay. Joe Flacco, another big game from Big Joe Flacco. 311 yards, 3 touchdowns. And this... every week I get on Bleacher Report and I'm like, there's no way Cleveland can be considered a top 10 team in the NFL, not with their quarterback. And Joe Flacco for 2 weeks has said, slow your roll there, GQ. We absolutely can be a playoff team. They're 8-5 on the season. He looks better than anything. Is it crazy to say that he's been their best looking quarterback, Jay, for a very long time? Joe Flacco has come in and he's getting the ball to Amari Cooper and David Njoku and Elijah Moore, and he's still funneling targets to the running backs. Like, they're letting him swing it 45 times, Jay. This Cleveland looks good with the defense, with Flacco, with their running game. This is, I know they went up against a hobbled Trevor Lawrence who was, he's just a tank, man.
He was a roller coaster, man.
T-Law is a tank. T-Law was both good and awful in the same game. He was good and bad in the same game. And he was out there thugging it out, with a broken leg, messed up knee, big knee brace, 3 awful interceptions, but then feeding Evan Ingram 3 touchdowns. He's running the ball. Jay, what are you doing running the ball, T-Law? He's running the ball. Just a tough, hard-nosed, first in, last out type of guy. Jacksonville did lose. They did lose in this one, but David Njoku, monster performances. This was the tight end scoring bonanza. He and Evan Ingram just smashed in this game. Mari Cooper returning from the concussion. He did a good job. The pass catchers didn't do much for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ridley didn't do much. We know that Christian Kirk is on IR with the groin issue. Yeah. Parker Washington did score again. ETN, not a ton on the ground, but he did score. What were your big fantasy takeaways from this game?
It's Joe Flacco is going to keep all these pass catchers afloat, right? David Njoku, Amari Cooper, you can start those guys.
Keep them afloat and help propel them down the river, man.
Damn right he will. I mean, 45 attempts. Trevor Lawrence on the other side, 50 attempts. It's crazy that Zay Jones, Calvin Ridley, 14 targets, 13 targets, only got 4 and 5 receptions. But, there was the good and bad of Trevor Lawrence, obviously dealing with an injury. So have to give him some grace for going out there and really putting on a big game. The score is, a little bit closer than the game probably was, but Flacco was obviously unreal. It's crazy that he was on waivers and no one really wanted him for weeks. And the Browns are like, yeah, I guess we'll take Joe Flacco. We'll take a shot on the guy. And he's literally going to take them to the playoffs. And honestly, Ray, if there's a place I don't want to go and play in the playoffs right now, it's Cleveland. Because Joe Flacco, dude's from Baltimore, played in Baltimore for years. So I trust
Delaware,
him.
Man.
Well, he's from Delaware, but I'm saying playing in Baltimore for years, he's used. That's a good question. If you ask me to point on a map,
what state touches Delaware?
What state touches Delaware?
Yeah,
I think Montana.
No, fool. Montana's in the freaking the left of the US.
I don't know where Delaware is.
It's to the right. If you're looking at the map, it's to the right. It's to the east.
So it's not Virginia. So it's there's Pennsylvania. What else is over there? Is Delaware in that pocket? Is it by Kansas and Missouri?
No, it's not Missouri. It's in the Midwest, man. It's Pennsylvania or Massachusetts.
So is it above Alabama and Georgia?
Is it up there? Go back to the game. Yes, Joe Flacco is going to keep this team afloat.
And he'll be good in the playoffs, right? Maybe we get elite Joe Flacco for a playoff run. I really like this, and I think it's going to be good for this team. I'm glad that Joe Flacco's getting a shot because he is playing well. Will the wheels fall off? Hopefully not, because I think this team really could actually make a run with a couple home games and still 8-5, Ray.
You think they can make a run with Flacco? You legitimately think they can make a run with Flacco? I do too. I do, man. Because if you're Kansas City and you have to go into Cleveland for a road playoff game, that's going to be a tough game. They'd be favored. What am I saying? They're going to be favored in that game. But Cleveland is playing very, very well, and they're only a game back. Or they'll be 2 games back of Miami, and they're a game back, or they're tied actually with Jacksonville right now. So you think about from that perspective, they're right there, and they could very well have a pretty high seed to where they get a playoff home game or 2. North, so they're not going to get the home playoff matchup. So nobody's probably going to Cleveland. Baltimore. They're not winning the North. I don't think that Baltimore's 10-3 now. I think they split with Cleveland though, right? Did Baltimore split the Cleveland matchup? Either way, point is
they did.
Point is, Cleveland's for real. This defense is good. Joe Flacco's playing well. Other side of the ball, T-Law escaped this game without significant injury to the leg that was already kind of messed up. And this is going to be a big, big game on Sunday Night Football this upcoming Sunday with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Baltimore Ravens facing off. Going to be a big, 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 big matchup. Big-time playoff implications in that one, Jay. And then you got some stuff in here, a little mid-show break. Coach of the Year. Let's talk about it. Coach of the Year. And while we do that and we roll into the main block of the show, make sure y'all hit that thumbs up button, like the content, subscribe. We got over 300 people in the building and 40 likes. Hit the like button, hit that thumbs up button. Jay, what is this that you got in the show sheet?
So this is really interesting to me now because Coach of the Year was locked up for weeks, right? Locked up. It's going to be Dan Campbell. And this is the same thing that happened last year. We had Nick Sirianni front running with the Eagles. And I was telling some people in the Discord, I don't think he's going to win if they falter towards the end of the year. And now the same thing's happening to Dan Campbell. He's still tied to be the favorite. And so you have Mike McDaniel, number one. If they win the AFC, yeah, McDaniel's going to win Coach of the Year. But if they don't win the AFC, which is a bit of a long shot at this point because they're minus 125 to win, Dan Campbell at plus 250, McDaniel plus 250, D'Amico at plus 350, but he may lose his quarterback this week and lose another game, at which point he could fall out. Shane Steichen at 10-1, Kyle Shanahan at 14-1, and Sean Payton Ray still lingering at 15-1. Would you potentially take a shot on Sean Payton? Because if he wins the AFC West, which is a long shot, I'd bet you that the odds for Sean Payton to win Coach of the Year are better than Denver to win the AFC West right now.
From a betting perspective, you make a very compelling case to lay a little bit of juice, lay a little bit of coin on Sean Payton. 15-1, there is an outside shot that they win that AFC West, dethroning the defending champs after starting off the season. What were they, 1-4?
1-5. 1-5, and they lost by 50 to Miami. And it's literally one of the biggest defensive turnarounds in NFL history. Because I know, who was it that made a video about it yesterday?
You're making it. This is a compelling reason why you should sprinkle a little bit on Sean Payton.
My whole thing, right? You could make the argument for Matt LaFleur, but I don't think he's winning the North.
No,
but he's like 22-1. Well, let's see, because they could win another game today, at which point it'd be close.
No.
But you talked about them, right? Steichen probably not going to win. No. He's getting close, probably not going to win. But Shanahan, I mean, is he going to win?
I don't know.
Probably not. But I think McDaniel and Payton are my two right now.
I like the odds for Sean Payton. I do like that. I still feel like they want to give it to Campbell or Mike McDaniel, but 15-1 for Sean Payton and their potential chance to win that AFC West, it's a compelling story. And if they do that, I do think that he would have a legitimate case to be Coach of the Year, Jay. But let's get into it, baby. Let's get into the precision, the surgicality, the dismantling, Jay. This is what happened to the old Philadelphia Eagles yesterday. Let me show you a clip. Let me show you a clip of what happened to the Eagles. You know what that sound is? It's when you bend them on and you just hear that noise. What is that? What is that? I'm talking about cheeks.
That is you clapping cheeks.
Clapped by the Dallas freaking Cowboys. I told y'all we were getting the dub. We were getting the dub. Dak Prescott, 24 for 39, 271, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jalen Hurts had a $197, no touchdowns through the air. Jalen Hurts also didn't do anything on the ground. Jay, this was this game started off like a high fly, and it was going to be just bombs away, a lot of points scored from Dallas, and then it sort of turned into heavyweight fight, a slugfest, and you saw sort of the stars giveth and taketh away in this game. My big takeaway from the Dallas side of the ball, Jay, is Dak Prescott is playing like a man on fire. He's playing on another level right now. He should be one of the co-favorites, if not the favorite, for NFL MVP right now with what he's doing, and he's going into a very difficult stretch of the season. The Buffalo Bills are on tap next. The season doesn't get any easier from Dallas, and if he walks through the rest of this schedule unscathed, maybe one loss, Jay, it's hard for me to believe that Jalen Hurts would be ahead of him for NFL MVP. It's only one other man for me, and we'll talk about that player in the next segment. But let's just talk about Dallas. How impressed were you with this performance against Philadelphia on Sunday Night Football?
Oh, I was very impressed, right? The narrative going into the game was Dallas doesn't beat anybody, right? And to your point, they do have Buffalo, Miami, both on the road, and then they come home to play Detroit in Week 17. So they do have a tough schedule going forward, but the narrative was they haven't beaten anybody because they lost San Francisco and everyone else they beat sucked, right? And they lost the first game against Philly. So you look now and say, okay, what has Dak done? And he just beat down Philly. Again, it was at home, and Dallas is so dominant at home. But the way they're playing right now, if you have to play them in Dallas, like, you're probably going to lose. And I think that's the biggest problem. Philly obviously shot themselves in the foot multiple times, but on the Dallas side, they took care of business on offense. They put up a ton of points. Brandon Aubrey obviously was phenomenal in this game for them as well, generating additional offense for them. In places where a lot of teams would be punting, Dallas is kicking field goals, so that was great for them. But you look at Dak, MVP favorite right now, plus 160 on DK. The only guy who can compete with him really is Brock Purdy. It seems like whoever wins the NFC is gonna be the MVP, unless of course it's the Eagles. Because Ray, honestly, I don't know if Jalen Hurts is gonna win the MVP if they win the NFC. Like, I just don't know if that's going to be the case. He's playing okay. He's not playing overly well, but Tony Pollard ran the ball particularly well in this game, and I did not expect that because he has been kind of so-so, and especially against this Eagles run D. Jake Ferguson was great. CeeDee Lamb was great. Michael Gallup even making a bunch of big plays. Brandon Cooks generating PIs like he always does in dramatic fashion. But I think the biggest conversation really is the Eagles, and it feels like we have this conversation every week. What is the problem, Ray, with the Philadelphia Eagles?
I don't know. I've been saying it, and I'm not just saying this because it's week 13. I've been on record from the beginning of the season saying that this offense looks much different without Shane Steichen. And you look at so many people in the NFL space that talk about how good the Indianapolis Colts scheme is offensively and how conducive this will be for the success of Anthony Richardson in the future. And then you look at Philly, I don't know if they're a ground and pound game. I don't know if they want to throw the ball. I don't know if they want to limit Jalen Hurts. I don't know what their identity is. I have no idea. But looking at those two quarterbacks play last night, it looked like there was one team that had a very competent, confident quarterback who was sort of in command of the offense. And the other side, he looked like a quarterback that was still trying to figure it out and work through it here in week 14 of the NFL season. I don't know what Philly's problem is because the receivers are awesome. A.J. Brown went 9 for 94, and he had a couple of plays that were left on the field. Devontae Smith, he had a solid game. All three of their big three fumbled the ball. Smith, Brown, and Jalen Hurts at inopportune moments. And then DeAndre Swift, when he was running the ball, Jay, he looked good, but they just wouldn't commit to the run. And that's when Dallas lost big Jonathan Hankins in the middle. And that's where you can beat Dallas, just running it right up the gut. Undersized Mike linebackers, not an experienced interior defensive line, and they just couldn't do it. Dallas did a very good job of being a balanced, well-balanced offense. They ran the ball. Tony Pollard and Rico Dowdle, 12-plus attempts from both of those guys. I think the biggest playmaker on Dallas that opens things up for CeeDee Lamb, for Michael Gallup, for Brandon Cooks is Jake Ferguson. There's a player. Jay, I've been, since February, from the time we've been doing underdog drafts, I've been telling folks, go get Ferg. I want the tight end attached to Dak Prescott. Same way I was telling people to go get Trey McBride. Jake Ferguson is the real deal. He is the real deal. He's athletic. They trust him. Catches everything. He can't block worth a damn, but we don't care. We don't need him to do those things. It's just a very good Dallas Cowboys team. I don't know what the problem is in Philly, and honestly, Jay, I don't care because we got the dub, put foot in them, clapped them, humbled them, we'll knock them down the power rankings, and I do think this is something to monitor. Now, if Philly wins out, and their schedule is quite easy, Jay, I do believe
very
that
easy. They play the Giants twice, I think.
Yes, they would be the team that would be number one. So they control their own destiny. They just need to win out. They control their destiny over Dallas. But you got two teams at 10-3 right now, and it looked like the better team on the field last night was no doubt the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, so I do want to ask you one quick question from a defensive standpoint. Obviously, cornerback in college, very familiar with defense. But one thing that strikes me is the Eagles only getting the ball to three players: A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. To me, that seems like an offense that'd be a little bit easier to defend when you know the ball is going to one of three players, right? And so when you're on offense and, you know, they have a stack formation, it's like, okay, we know that Smith's going to be single covered. We know we're probably going to double A.J. Brown. And if Goddard beats me, who cares, right? Because anybody else on the field is not getting the ball. And if they're drop backing and passing, Hurts only trusts a few guys. And I think when you look at a lot of offenses around the league, there needs to be some diversity. You can't just have the ball going to two or three players, or at least not for a long period. We saw them get away with it last year, and they've been getting away with it a little bit. But when they struggle, they don't have anybody else to get the ball to. And I doesn't feel like they don't have the players. They're just unwilling to get the ball to other playmakers in the offense. Like, there's no reason why DeAndre Swift should have 0 targets in a game, period. Right? And I think that speaks a lot to the coaching, the play calling, and what they're doing. They're relying so heavily on three guys to win them games, and you just can't do that in the NFL.
You look at them, there were 4 players that were listen to what I'm about to say. There were 4 players targeted for Philadelphia yesterday, and one of the players, his target came on a fake punt. Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. That's it. Now, from a fantasy perspective, you're like, great, consolidated targets. That's what we want. That's what we like. Whereas when you look at Dallas, here are the offensive players the defense has to keep on mind. Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks, Tony Pollard. All 5 of those players received 5 or more targets. 3 of them had 8 or more targets. And then you've just got ancillary pieces. Jalen Tolbert getting a target here. Kevontae Turbin a target there. Rico Dottle getting... There are more weapons to defend, which makes things much more difficult for defenses. And honestly, Jay, this score really wasn't as close as what it was. Dak Prescott scrambling around, trying to find somebody. Probably should have just taken the sack. Get strip fumbled. Jalen Carter picks it up, runs it back for a touchdown. So outside of a defensive touchdown, the Philadelphia Eagles scored 0 offensive touchdowns in that game, Jay. This is a problem. It's a problem. But you look at Dallas, this team is poised for a playoff run. And from a fantasy perspective, man, you're still firing them up. Dak, Pollard, the 3 wide receivers, the 3 pass catchers, Ferguson, Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and in a deep league in a pinch, you can put Michael Gallup out there if you're starting 13 players or something of that nature. But big win for the Dallas Cowboys, Jay. But it doesn't stop there. The MVP talk does not just stop in Dallas, because we need to go out west to talk about what I believe, what you believe, what we probably all believe is the best team in the NFL right now. The San Francisco 49ers, 28-16 over the Seattle Seahawks, Jay. Brock, Glock, Purdy. Jay, talk about him. We do this every week. Talk about Glock
every
Purdy.
week. Dude is just balling, man. We talked about Jake Browning, his efficiency, 18 for 24. How about Brock Purdy's 19 for 27, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 3 sacks. But Ray, the narrative is always, well, he throws the ball short. He doesn't throw the ball deep. I saw him throwing the ball deep quite a bit this past Sunday against the Seahawks. We talked about how they should beat them easily. The game was a little bit closer than I liked it to be. Geno Smith did not play in this game. It was Drew Lock, and Drew Lock, honestly, made some good throws out there against a pretty tough defense, but it was all Brock Purdy, still the front runner for the MVP. Christian McCaffrey balled out, 16 carries, 145. Of course, he was vultured by Jordan Mason after a massive 72-yard run on the first play, but Deebo Samuel, 7 for 149 and a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk, 6 for 126 and a touchdown. George Kittle, 3 for 76 and a touchdown. All the weapons on San Francisco got it done for us, and it was great. This is why you start them every week. This is why you have to, because you just never know what's going to happen. And this week, Brock Purdy did not support just 1 or 2, but all 3 pass catchers for the 49ers. And while he's not the MVP frontrunner right now, if he wins the NFC, he's going to win the MVP.
Jay, he's good at this, and we're going to keep doing it. It's this and that. It's this. He's good. Folks, he is very good. Brock Purdy is very good. It's a great scheme. It's a great system. It's a great all of that. He's freaking good. And just get over it. Just get over it. I don't know why some people still want to hang on to the Trey Lance should be the starter narrative. Cut it out. Brock Purdy has been surgical. Where's he at on the season, Jay? 2nd in the NFL in passing yards, 1st in QBR, tied for 2nd in touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions on the season. Like, when are we going to stop being silly? At what point are we going to stop with the silly narratives, right? It's funny, ha. Okay, but you want to talk ball, you want to score fantasy points, let's talk ball and score fantasy points. He's good. Like, that's just what it is, Jay. Other side of the ball, Drew Lock. I thought Drew Lock, for having to come in this situation on the road where everybody thought it would be Geno Smith, I thought Drew Lock did his part. Yes, there were some plays, oh my gosh, but that's Drew Lock. That's a young quarterback who's had some reps as the starter, but was not counted upon of being the starter in this matchup. I thought Drew Lock did his job. I thought he was fine. They couldn't get anything going on the ground. It didn't look like Kenneth Walker was all the way back. Christian McCaffrey, I believe the 2nd play of the game, rips off a 70-yarder, almost scores a touchdown, but Seattle could not run the ball. They could not get anything going running the ball. DK Metcalf scored a beautiful touchdown early in that game, gets ejected later because that's what DK Metcalf does. Can't control his emotions, shouldn't be on the field. Tyler Lockett, big day for him, 6 for 89. JSN started out the game hot. I believe he caught the first pass of the game, and then after that, just downhill for Jackson Smith and Jigba. And you touched on it from the San Francisco side. All of the guys were good. Kittle, Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. Like, this is what you want. This is what you want to see. This team is incredible. It's a scary team. And they always start off a little slow where it looks like, it looks like the other team's in it. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 they're up. They're off to the races. This is an incredible football team.
Yeah, no, the Niners are, it's crazy to think that, they've lost a couple of games. They lost to Cleveland, I believe, as well, right? But they slapped Dallas and they slapped the Eagles on the road. And you're like, okay, maybe those wins mean a little bit more than these losses that we're seeing. And when they're really firing on all cylinders, one of the best teams we've ever seen. Like, it is truly ridiculous what this team does. And when they're really playing well on defense, they are so difficult to beat every single week. So I'm really excited. I think what's crazy, Ray, is we expected the NFC to kind of suck, but this year it's actually at the top, very, very competitive and really, really exciting. And it's the AFC that's not so competitive, very muddied in the middle, and we'll see how it ultimately plays out. But the Niners are just ridiculous, and loving what I'm seeing. Obviously, they beat down the Seahawks yet again at home. They covered, which I was hoping for. So if you bet on that, congratulations to you, because they did get it done. But I'm excited for what we're seeing.
We're gonna look at KTC. I want to see what KTC is talking about today, and where Purdy is today. So he's still down there chilling, Jay. QB 13 on KTC. QB 13, Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Tua, T-Law, JRich, Burrow, Herbert, Lamar, Stroud, all ahead of Brock Purdy right now, closely followed by Jordan Love and Justin Fields. All this tells me, Jay, is just buy opportunity. Just buy opportunity for
Is it a buy opportunity for you?
Yeah, if I could get them for QB 13 or below prices, absolutely. Like, why do I have to keep saying this shit every week? I say the same thing every week. Yes, I want that captain of that offense, because it's just it's fantasy gold. It is fantasy gold. It is literally, yeah. And who cares? So many times it's funny. People like to talk about all the points players score when it's in garbage time, and that doesn't matter. But then Brock Purdy's got weapons. It can't count. It can't happen. It can't. I want him to do it with CJ Stroud level weapons. I want him to do exactly what Stroud did versus the Jets. Prove that to me, and then I'll believe in him. It's silly stuff, man. It's absolutely silly season, Jay. But what people thought was a silly comment that you made on Friday, JRich Adamus, Nostra Riches, whatever your name is, you nailed another one, my friend. You called the upset. Chicago over Detroit. And Jay, quite frankly, it wasn't even close, my friend. You absolutely nailed this game script, this game theory, the props inside this game. You were money. 28-13. Justin Fields, 233, 1 touchdown. Pardon me. Also had 58 on the ground, a touchdown there. Jay, you nailed it. You said you had the data. You pulled it up. You said this is a matchup in which I am very concerned for the Lions, and you didn't outright take the Bears on the money line, but you said, give me the points. Like, I think Chicago's going to beat them. Talk about it. What did we see in this game?
Yeah, I mean, we saw a great Justin Fields, obviously. The passing numbers were okay, 19 for 33, 223, and a touchdown. The touchdown was a ridiculous play from quarterback and wide receiver. He obviously saw the single coverage outside. DJ Moore with an absolutely disgusting cut inside to stack his cornerback and was just gone after that. Fields hit him right in stride, and it was a great touchdown play. But you look at what he did. He spreaded the ball to his 3 top weapons. DJ Moore, 10 targets. Cole Kmet, 7 targets. Darnell Mooney, another 7 targets. This is what we talked about. We talked about Philly, how they get the ball to 2 players, and it doesn't really work. You get the ball to 3 players, all of a sudden you have an offense that's open, and you have auxiliary guys, Velus Jones catching passes, Tyler Scott, Mercedes Lewis even catching passes. You need to have guys who are at least a threat to catch the ball. And I think that's where you look at what the Bears are doing each and every week. And Ray, I truly believe this. I don't think Matt Eberflus should be fired, because what he is doing now as the coach, it's not just what they're doing on offense, but it's what they're doing on defense. They are absolutely mauling guys in the trenches and making it so difficult. You look at what Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery did. Okay, they had 132 rushing yards on 21 carries, and they were good. But okay, another week, Amon-Ra sucked. 2 weeks in a row now, Amon-Ra hasn't been able to get it done. And you have to wonder why. Is it Ben Johnson? Is it the Lions are tired? What is the issue that's going on with this team? And I legitimately believe, one, the Bears have the Lions number. And we've seen it 2 games in a row. The Bears should have won the first game in Detroit. They obviously blew it. But in Chicago, they got it done. And it's because their defense is playing so much better than it was to start the year. And I think that's the key here. is the
And
defense
that's
is
what you
playing very
talked
well.
about.
And that's
You talked
Eberflus.
about their defense being very good. I do. Their defense is good. You watch this game; they had Goff confused early.
Very
I don't
good.
know what they did coverage wise, but there was nothing there for Laporta, for Amon-Ra St. Brown. You talked about their defense being completely night and day from where it was. I'm just going to ask you, Jay. Justin Fields, he's on a 5-week audition. How do you think this was a positive step? This was positive in his ability to retain this starting job in the future. I thought he did a very good job. I know the passing wasn't always there, but that's probably never going to be the type of quarterback he is. If you're counting on Justin Fields to go out there and become Aaron Rodgers, then you're setting the threshold in an unrealistic place. Yeah. But if he can go out there and do this and run the ball, get the ball to a couple of his playmakers, there's something there. And if Eberflus doesn't go, do you think the Bears would still take a quarterback 1 overall, or do they pass on not 1, not 2, not 3? Can they afford to pass on another one, despite the fact that Fields is playing solid ball, man?
Yeah, I think that's the crazy thing about the Bears is that you don't want to pass on Caleb Williams, but at the same time, like, right, this is their schedule. They have to go to Cleveland. Okay, they can win that game because they can get ugly. They can run the ball. Obviously, Fields can throw in poor weather, so can Flacco, but I think both defenses are pretty good, and I really do think that the Bears have a shot to win that game. Then they have a home game against Arizona. How do you think Kyler Murray is going to play in Chicago in December? Probably not very well, and I'd give Chicago the edge in that game. Then they play the Falcons. How's Desmond Ridder going to play on the road in Chicago? Probably not very well, and then they end the season in Green Bay. So you talk about a team that's already won 3 of 4 and probably could win another 2 of the next 4, at which point they'd have a pretty decent record, probably right around 8-7 or so. And I think that'd be pretty good for them. At which point, are you firing Eberflus? Are you getting rid of Fields? I don't know. Like, I understand that, Fields maybe isn't the answer, but if they trade that first overall pick, Ray, imagine the haul you're going to get. It'll be insane. And it may set you up for the future even beyond that. We already saw the haul they got for Bryce Young. Imagine what the hell they'd get for Caleb Williams. So from that perspective, it's like maybe Justin Fields isn't the answer, but you could add so much around him if you did decide to keep him. And at which point, maybe that would be worth it. Because then if you decide in subsequent years he's not the answer and you want to go after a veteran, your team would be loaded. You would have a phenomenal roster. Trading away 2 first-round picks, building around that team. The defense is getting better. The offense is only going to continue to get better. They could draft a receiver with their middling first-round pick again to once again bolster the offense. Like, I think there's a lot of positives in Chicago right now. And I think if Poles really wants to go that route, I don't think it'd be a bad decision. Especially if they win 3 of the next 4 or 2 of the next 4, they'd have a decent record. They'd have a high pick in the draft and obviously a middling pick. I think they could do a lot with that.
Well, the other side of the ball, Jared Goff, not a good game, but I'm not worried about Goff long term. He's still a very solid quarterback, very good quarterback. You laid out the case. Go back to Friday's show.
He's bad on the road. Outside and on the road, he stinks, man.
For anti-Jared Goff, very, very eloquently on Friday, but I'm not worried about him long term. He stunk it up. He stunk it up. You're going to get these games from quarterbacks. I'm not overreacting.
For sure.
Jared Goff is buns. I mean, you laid this out before the game even played that you thought Chicago would do a lot better than a lot of people were giving him credit for. Jay, let's move to the shootout in Baltimore. The shootout that everybody said, I'll fade this game. Wind and rain and cold and all this stuff. 37 points for the Baltimore Ravens versus the Los Angeles Rams. They're 31. Baltimore wins with a Tylan Wallace walk-off punt return touchdown in OT. Not Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson and Matthew Stafford damn near had 300 passing yards apiece, 3 passing touchdowns apiece, which means for fantasy, there was goodness all over the place. Lamar Jackson had 70 on the ground with 11 rush attempts. OBJ scored. Isaiah Likely balled out. Zay Flowers caught a touchdown. Cooper Kupp went berserk, looking like old Cooper Kupp. Puka Nacua diving all over the field, making spectacular catches. Davis Allen comes out of nowhere in relief of Tyler Higbee, scores a touchdown. And Kyron Williams, my RB3 from 2022 when everybody gave me a hard time, he just continues to bell cow it up with 25 more totes, 114 yards, as well as catching 3 passes. Jay, this was a damn good game. From a fantasy perspective, from an NFL entertainment value, what a game we had. This was a fun one, man.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the weather and you're like, what are these teams doing? Just airing it out all day long. The Rams, I think, started the game with like 10 straight runs with Kyren Williams. Drove it all the way down the field. And Lamar's like, to heck with that, man. Let's throw the ball.
Early. Those unders were nuked early. 190 yards for Stafford. 200 yards for Lamar Jackson. Just nuke city.
It was ridiculous. And I think, you look at this game and you're like, wow, this is not what we expected, but we got a phenomenal performance from just about everybody across the board. Cooper Kupp, 8 for 115 in the touchdown. Puka, 5 for 84. And Ray, I do want to mention this because people who aren't watching the game aren't paying attention. Second on the team in targets, well, technically tied for first, Demarcus Robinson had 10 targets in this game, only caught 3 passes for 46 yards and a touchdown, but 10 targets, Ray. He has taken Tutu Atwell's job.
But Tutu got hurt too. Tutu got hurt as well, but
was he hurt last week?
It was trending. It was trending. I picked up Demarcus Robinson. I picked him up in a lot of spots and I realized those points.
If he's available, you have to pick him up. I mean, he played 61% of snaps last week to Tutu's 39, and this week Tutu did get hurt, but 81% or 87% to 12%, right? So that's a big development because they've been looking for this wide receiver 3. Tutu, we talked about at the beginning of the year, playing a ton of snaps because they run 3 wide receiver sets every play, right? 100% of snaps, there was 3 wide receivers on the field. It was Kyren Williams and 3 wide receivers, and this time it was Demarcus Robinson. But the Ravens side, Ray, I don't know what to make of this receiving core. I don't know if I want Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know if I should be selling Zay Flowers because he's really not the guy that people kind of thought he could be. I don't know what to do. Please help me find some clarity with this Baltimore Ravens team because Lamar Jackson's been great, but I don't know who the hell to trust in this offense.
You spray and pray. You just hope it is your guy in this week. OBJ, Zay, Nelson. But here's the thing. He's distributing the ball to multiple players, to keeping defenses honest. And, you want Lamar Jackson, you want Zay Flowers, you want Odell Beckham Jr., and damn it, you want Isaiah Likely because he looked good in this matchup too. No Mark Andrews. Best ball, yes, give me some Nelson Aguilar. Give me some Demarcus Robinson. Give me some Davis Allen. This is good. The Keaton Mitchell Flames have sort of tempered down a little bit. He had 54 yards on the ground, saved by one big run. I believe that was in the third quarter. But you just want these guys. You want pieces of good offenses. And the best part about what's happening right now, the thing that is not being talked about enough in fantasy football right now, Jay, is the fact that no team is the clear-cut runaway number 1 seed, got it locked up today, which means, Jay, all these teams are going to be battling into the end. The Rams are still in the thick of the playoff hunt. They are still there to potentially make a playoff push. The Ravens want to secure that. There's only one team that gets a bye. With the new playoff rules, only the number 1 seed gets that first round bye. These teams will be playing all the way through our fantasy championship. So looking at this game, takeaways, Kyren, just studs all over the board. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, Lamar Jackson, OBJ, Isaiah Likely, they were all awesome, all good. And these are 2 teams that are going to throw the ball and throw the ball a lot, Jay. Anything else you want to take away from this one?
Oh, so one thing to your point about the picks and stuff, from pick 11 all the way to pick 26 in the NFL draft, separated by 2 games. That's it.
Say that again.
So from pick 11, teams at 6 and 7, all the way up to Jacksonville at 8 and 5, who have the 26th pick. I don't know what that is, 15, 16 picks right now. So half the league is separated by 2 games in the standings. So there's a couple teams at the top, a couple teams at the bottom, but literally pretty much the entire NFL, at least half the NFL, is between 6 and 7 and 8 and 5. And if you spread that up to 5 and 8, we may get 2 more 5 and 8 teams, or no, we're not going to get 2 5 and 8 teams. It'll be 4 and 9. But at 5 and 8, you have the Bears, Raiders, and Jets and Chargers. So it gets even wider if you spread it by a game to 3 games. But yeah, a lot of parity there. And I did want to mention this because I talked about this on a pod, feels like months ago now. Matthew Stafford playoff schedule: Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, the Commanders, the Saints, and the Giants. 2 smash matchups for your playoffs. If you have Matthew Stafford, you want to keep him, you want to trade for him if you can, because he is going to ball the hell out in the fantasy playoffs. So definitely liking what I'm seeing from Stafford, and I think he's going to have a phenomenal playoff run. And obviously the past 2 weeks as well has been great since he returned from injury.
What's going on? Dynasty Daddy in the building. Shout out to Dynasty Daddy, man. Dynasty Daddy got a dope service to help you analyze those damn rosters and keep everything in place. And then my girl Joe, what's up, Joe? She said, I guess I had more faith in fantasy football analytics to power fantasy football values and not what happens from week to week. Yeah, Joe, I think Joe jumped in late on Friday, but this has been the trend this year. It is week to week. I'm seeing more week to week sentiment, week to week reactions, week to week feelings, power and drive, rankings and values more than analytics and trusting data. It all feels, what have you done for me this week? And we can literally just go back to last week, look at some players that people were kind of on. And if those players did well, I bet you they're up now. And if there's some players that people were a little on and they did bad, they're even. It's just week-to-week variance and volatility is insane right now. I got a lot of theories, and I'm going to blame Underdog Fantasy a little bit for that and the awesome Best Ball Mania, which I've got some really good best ball teams. But, Jay, let's get to, the Josh Allen revenge game in Kansas City. The Josh Allen revenge game, and it felt personal for Josh in this one. It felt a little personal. Josh really was out there trying to get it done, and they did beat the Kansas City Chiefs 20-17. Buffalo improves to 7-6. Kansas City falls to 8-5. Josh Allen, 233 through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He had 10 carries, 32 yards, and if you took his over, 33.5 yards, Jay. He had it.
The kneel downs?
And then the 2 kneel downs took it away. That stinks. James Cook, 58 yards on the ground. He was the monster through the air, 83 yards through the air and a touchdown. Other side of the ball, Kansas City Chiefs did not have Isaiah Pacheco, so they had to lean on their first-round pick of a couple of years ago. He didn't do a damn thing. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 11 for 39, 2 catches, 29 yards through the air. We knew that wasn't going to come out and turn out to be much of anything. Jerick McKinnon scored a touchdown, was involved on the ground a little bit through the air. He is slow as molasses. He tries to do that jump cut, high step, and goes nowhere. Travis Kelce, 6 for 83. Rashee Rice, 7 for 72 and a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes, 271, 1 touchdown, and one very, very upset quarterback at the end of the game. Yeah. So, Jay, this was a slugfest. This was two teams that were not giving up anything, right? It was just two hammers going at it. Slugfest. We fast forward to the end of the game.
Jay, Play of the season. Was
Kadarius
unreal.
Toney has cost them 2 games this season. He has single-handedly negative warred them 2 full games. You know, the war you're looking for, high war. Those are the players that are winning you weeks. Goddamn Toney, below negative war, like negative 100 war. He has lost them 2 games. Part of me is like, why would you call that? Another part of me, dude, he was in front of the other wide receiver on the other side of the field, and you're like,
he was ahead of the defensive end.
Far offsides, Kadarius Toney. Talk about this game, Jay. This feels like just frustration overload from Kansas City right now. I'd be pissed too if I were Mahomes.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think that Kadarius Toney has a job today. But, you know, when you look at that locker room, you look at what's going on, it's just not a decision you can make because you know the media and all that stuff around it would be crazy. And it's already nuts. Like what's going on in Kansas City, the demise, the fall of the dynasty, you know, the drops, the this, the that. Like we've seen this writing on the wall just last season. It didn't really come to fruition. This season, though, it's happening. Everything is falling apart. And what's lost in that is how good Rashee Rice is. Like Rashee Rice is unreal.
He's really good, man.
And I feel like people aren't giving him his credit. And it's like people forget Patrick Mahomes is still his quarterback. And for years, Ray, we got to get Sky Moore. Sky Moore is going to be the guy. Go and draft Sky Moore. He's flying up rankings. Rashee Rice continues to get it done week in and week out, and he's not really moving too much. He's wide receiver 25 right now on KTC. In my opinion, probably is still a little bit underrated. And the biggest thing, Ray, and I've been tracking this almost every week, and I tell you this almost every time, the snaps would not go up. They kept using Toney. They kept using Sky Moore. They kept using Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Finally, Ray, 85% of snaps for Rashee Rice. The only guy who was even close was Justin Watson at like 54%. Rashee Rice is finally on the field, playing every single down, same as Travis Kelce, and he returned 10 targets, 7 for 72, and a touchdown. Everyone else, 4 targets or less. Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, 10 apiece. dude is going to ball the rest of the season. But the Chiefs, man, I don't know how they fix it.
You
Their
know what
problem is, I think they have a Pacheco problem, and we've said this now 3 weeks in a row. They need to ride Isaiah Pacheco because he is their best player. And we talked about this before. They have a Kareem Hunt problem. They miss Kareem Hunt. They have one game without their running back, and they lose it because they can't run the ball. And they were unwilling to run the ball. The Bills ran the ball. They won the game. I think that's the difference. Both defenses are great. Both teams are able to put up points. The difference was the running game. And if they had Pacheco, they probably win that game. They probably do.
You know what's interesting about the Rashee Rice thing is if his name were Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison or
100%. Or Quentin Johnston?
Quentin Johnston, they'd be Dynasty wide receiver 6, Dynasty wide receiver 7. And even when I'm reading the chat, it's, Kansas City's going to load up on receiver. They're just going to replace. Rashee Rice is really freaking good. Like, if you're just box score scouting, like on the season, man, you're talking about a rookie he's going to finish the season. He's got 663 yards, top 40 on the season, and that's with him not playing a ton early. He is everything that people wanted Sky Moore and Justin Ross and all these other misfit cast of toys to become and more at 6'1", 205 pounds. He's fast. He's explosive. They're going to build around him with Patrick Mahomes. I'm with you, Jay. If I can buy him at wide receiver 25 prices right now today, sign me up. I'm trusting what the team is telling me. You've just said he's increased his snap percentage, his participation up damn near 90%. He's not coming off the field because outside of Travis Kelce, and I'd argue to say that explosiveness-wise, he's more explosive than Kelce. Kelce's an older player. Like, they're going to have to lean on Rashee Rice, and this young player is having to grow up very fast inside of a championship contending offense. This should be the signal for dynasty gamers to say, give me that guy, right? I'm looking in the chat, and Joe's like, I don't even know how to value players anymore. I don't know who's where. Rashee Rice, I'm telling you, value this guy. They're not going to replace Rashee Rice. Are they going to replace Tony and Sky Moore? Absolutely. They're not replacing Rashee Rice. Very good player, Jay. On the other side of the ball, I know Buffalo won. What's up with Diggs? I mean, dude. Jay,
don't do nothing no more. He doesn't do nothing. It makes no sense.
What the hell? What the hell is going on?
Do you think he has a Joe Brady problem? Because it feels like it's bigger than that, right? Like it's been going on for probably a month now. He's been bad.
Jay, here goes his last 5 games.
There you go. Yeah,
6 for 86 and a touchdown. We'll take that. Awesome. 3 for 34, 4 for 27, 6 for 74 and a tutty versus Philly, and then he had 4 for 24, no touchdowns. 1 first. I don't know, man. I don't know.
A lot of dump offs, a lot of screens, like a lot of short passes. It's not good for Diggs right now. 11 targets, 4 for 24 is not good enough. I mean, we've seen, and people need to, who aren't paying attention and didn't notice this, like James Cook is getting more involved in this offense. Like very much so. Getting Joe Brady as the OC now, calling the plays. He is much more involved in the offense, and past 2 weeks has been phenomenal. But Stephon Diggs has not been figured out. They haven't been able to get him the ball, and we talked about how KC is pretty good outside, but even still, like, Diggs needs to be better than this. And whether it's him, whether it's the offense, whether, whatever the case may be, maybe he's hurt because there has been some rumblings that he's hurt, but even still, he just isn't doing enough. And if he's hurt or if he's this bad, he needs to be more of a decoy. You can't throw this guy the ball 11 times if he's only going to deliver on 4 catches for 24 yards. He was blanketed. He was covered a lot. Casey did a great job against him. But if this is the Stephon Diggs that we know and love, he needs to be a little bit better than this. And they need to find better ways to get him the ball down the field and not just in bubble screens and short passes. He's kind of being treated like DJ Moore right now.
Looking up Rashee Rice's stats, it reminded me, Puka Nakua's got 4 games left, Jay, and he's got 1,100 yards receiving. Does he get to third? You laughed at me when I said he's going to finish with 1,300 yards. He's got 4 games to get 200 yards. Can he do it, Jay? Less than 200 yards in 4 games. Is he going to go for over 1,300?
It's going to be close. He definitely can. I mean, he's got Washington and the Giants, so he can definitely do it. He can definitely do it.
Just say yes. Good Lord, JRich.
Why would I give you that satisfaction?
Hey, what about DJ Moore and Justin Fields' top 10 options?
I don't know about that.
Dude, you are insane. All right. All
Give me
right, Jay.
Rasheed Rice and Patrick Mahomes.
Would you say Rasheed Rice and Patrick Mahomes are very good, Jay? They are very good. All right, we got 2 games on Monday Night Football tonight. We got the Tennessee Titans versus the Miami Dolphins, and then we have the Green Bay Packers and the New York Football Giants. These games are both going on simultaneously. 7:15 they're coming on at the same time. So first question, Jay, is which game are you watching? You watching your boy?
I guess I'm probably Jordan Love.
You got your boy Jordan Love, right? Yeah. Game against the Giants. If he loses this game, you know the chat's going to be on your ass. Fire's going to be on ass. And then you got the Titans and the Dolphins in Miami. 46.5-point total.
That's not going to be a game, right?
In the other one. You know the Dolphins should put it to the Tennessee Titans in this matchup, Jay. So you'll be tapped into the Packers game. There's not a ton to talk about as far as interest from a fantasy perspective. Tennessee, Jay, who are you starting from Tennessee?
I mean, Derrick Henry, I guess.
Derrick Henry.
Like you're probably starting
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah,
you're starting Nuke. You probably have to start Nuke.
It could be tough for Nuke, man. The Miami Dolphins defense is so good.
I get it.
So good. But I mean, at this point, it's locked in.
You're here.
You're starting them, right?
You're here.
How do you feel about Levis in this game? Can he throw for 200 yards, right? 200 yards has been the theme of this show so far. Can he throw for 200 against the Dolphins? I mean,
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Miami is going to score a bunch, and they're going to pull their starters in the third quarter, and then Tennessee and Vrabel's going to keep theirs in. So he could garbage time his way there. I think he can get there.
210 is the line.
What is it?
210.
210 is the line. Well, we've got Mitch Carr. We'll bring Mitch in and see what he thinks about some of these bets here in a second. Packers side of the ball. Quick question. What's up with Aaron Jones? Is Aaron Jones playing?
I honestly don't know if Aaron Jones is playing. That's a great question. But even if he does play, do I feel great about playing him?
That's what I was going to say. I kind of don't want him to play so I could just roll out A.J. Dillon. But if he plays...
He's back on the practice field. He's questionable. He's feeling better.
He's playing.
It sounds like he's going to play.
He's playing.
And probably not be overly effective, which is a problem.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, let's bring Mitch in. Let's just talk some bets. Can we just talk bets? Let's bring Mitch in. Let's bring Mitch in. Let's see if he's got any profitable picks for us tonight. For those of us playing on prize picks. What'd you say?
I need him.
Yeah, I need him too. Let's bring Mitch in the building. Mitch, what's going on with you, man?
Good morning, my friends. Ray, my man, Dallas looking sharp last night. MVP Dak Prescott.
Here we go.
TD Lamb.
How about
fresh,
them damn Cowboys, baby? Mitch, your Bills got a big win. I see you with the Buffalo
congrats
hat
to you,
on.
Mitch.
Your Bills got a big
call
win.
with your Bills.
I was going to say, we're bringing some good juju to the show today. I mean, listen, it's like 86 degrees in my house. I'm wearing a T-shirt, and I had to rep the Bills the Bills winner cap.
My wife smokes me out of the office every day. It's on fucking 2,000 degrees in here right now. But, Mitch, got Dolphins, Titans, Packers, Giants. 2 very unexciting games going into it. But please help us make some coin today. Are there any picks, any players that you think that we should be paying attention to tonight in either of these matchups? Give it to us, Mitch.
Yeah, absolutely. So, listen, man, a good way to make boring games fun is you just throw a bet or two on them. There's some prop picks for both games I don't mind tonight. Both quarterbacks for the Giants and the Packers tonight. I like their passing attempts and passing completion props. So, Jordan Love over 20.5 pass completions. I think he's going to hit the over with ease tonight. I'm surprised it's not at 21.5. Jordan Love been throwing the ball very well lately. 2+ touchdowns, 4 straight games. He's hit over 20.5 pass completions in 8 out of his last 10 starts. And the one time he hooked at 20, meaning his completion prop was at 20.5, and he finished with 20. I think tonight he hits the over. Danny DeVito. Yeah,
Danny DeVito, baby. Let's go.
Listen, man, I just watched Home Alone this weekend, so we're in the Danny DeVito mode. Tommy DeVito under 28.5 pass attempts. This is a strange line. This is like a shocking line. I honestly thought this would open at like 25.5, 26.5. They opened it at 28.5. The most he's thrown is 27, 26, and 25 in the last 3 games. the Giants' pace of play is just way down. They're at like 50, 52, 55 snaps a game. The Packers are not that fast-paced either. They're like 60-ish per game. So you got two moderate to slow-paced teams, and Tommy DeVito not throwing the ball a ton. And then on the other side of that, just defense alone, the Packers giving up the 9th least pass attempts per game. This is a weird line, maybe a funky one. Maybe it's a trap, but the under 28.5 pass attempts for Tommy DeVito looks nice. Other than that, for this game, I have nothing else. I do have 3 for the I guess more important game.
Well, let's get to that game. And I'm looking at it right now, and I'm seeing a lot of people play on Prize Picks. 28, yep. Mitch, I know whole numbers, but would you take the under on 28 people that play on Prize Picks? I know it's not 28.5, but 28.
Yeah, I would. Why not? I mean, I think the line is just off. I think it's a weird line. Like, books are juicing the over 27.5, but I still think that's incorrect, which means there's some nice value at taking at some plus odds under 27.5 on books if you find it. I just don't think that's happening.
Well, we didn't bring you on to talk about Home Alone and Danny DeVito, man. Talk to us about Tyreek Hill, Tua, Achane. What about the Miami-Tennessee game? Give us some good plays from this one. Who we got?
I'm happy to do it. Let's talk some touchdowns. Who doesn't like some touchdowns on Monday Night Football? So we got great value. Achane at -115 on Fliff. For you Fliffer nutters, you get an opportunity to take an anytime touchdown. Very good odds. My guy has played 20-plus snaps in 4 games. Remember, first game of the year, not active. Second game, 5 snaps. Third game, they're like, let's give this guy the football. And he goes nuclear. The rest is history. So he's played 4 games this year with like a decent amount of snaps. He had 2+ touchdowns in 3 of the 4. He scored 1 in the other game. So we got a guy here who can literally score from anywhere on the field. I love that. And then a Raheem Mostert. This is also a weird line. +115 anytime touchdown for a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. We've seen, I think, 2 or 3 receiving touchdowns this year. He scored 9 of 12 games. He's got multiple touchdowns in multiple games. Both of these guys are +400 or longer, Ray, to score 2+ touchdowns. I think it's worth a sprinkle on both. Maybe even just parlay them together for +3,200. I'm just saying we've got 4 games where Achane and Mostert have both played significant snaps. And in 2 of the 4 games, they both scored 2 touchdowns. It's +3,200. It's a long shot. It's a dart throw. Nobody should be doing more than a doll hair or 2. Just make it a fun little thing. Do it with your dad. Do it with your friends, your wife, your brother, whatever it is. Just have some fun with it. Lastly, man, Derrick Henry. Shoot, man, he's just not looking the same. Part of it, I think.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna call him out.
You're fading the king. You're fading the king tonight.
I faded him earlier this week at under 58.5 rushing yards. The line has since moved to 54.5, which means I nailed that bad boy. Listen, there's a lot of data and trends that go into this one. And listen to this, Jay, and listen to this, Ray. Derrick Henry, when the Titans were losing at halftime, has been under in 8 of 16. When they're winning at halftime, he's been over in 19 of the last 19 games. Are the Titans going to be leading at halftime?
Hold on, run that back one more time. Run that back.
When the Titans are leading at halftime over the last 2.5 years, he has averaged 90 yards and hit the over in 19 of 19 games. When they're on the road, it's about half of that, just under 50 yards per game and under in 50% of the game. So I don't think they're going to be leading tonight in Miami on Monday Night Football. 13.5-point dogs, I think, is last I saw.
14
and,
now.
Oh, gosh, dude. And we're already seeing snap rates start to go down a little bit. He doesn't have those longer carries anymore. He's not busting off a 60-yarder. And I went back and I looked and I was like, well, how about this, Mitch? On those games when they're losing at halftime, out of the 8 times that he has hit the over, what were his longest carries like?
Right.
Half of them were like a 40-yard rip. And the other ones, he had like 20 touches. He's not getting 20 touches anymore, and he's not ripping off 40-yard carries. I don't know how this hits the over. I don't care if it dropped to 54.5. I just don't think he's going to run the football very well or even get a ton of snaps tonight if they go down 2-3 scores real early in this game.
Well, look at that. That's some nasty. JRich, I know you like that. You like those historical
He's a big data junkie.
points.
I love it.
Yeah, we love it. And, Mitch, these are dope, man. So I appreciate you coming on every Monday and Friday. Mitch will be in here. We like to talk some gambling. We like the sports bet. Mitch does this. Make sure you follow him at DFS and Donuts. He's dropping plays. I saw him working in the background, working on plays to give his Dub Club members some winners and eat good on Monday Night Football. So, Mitch, keep cooking up some winners. If y'all want more from Mitch, link in the description. Follow him on Twitter. Get over there. Sign up. Get in. Mitch, we'll see you on Friday, man.
See you guys. Thanks again.
Appreciate you, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch.
JRich, what do you think about that game, man? Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert score, and the stat about Derrick Henry, 50% after not leading at halftime. Yeah, that does not spell good things for the King. Got a couple of super chats we want to get to, Jay, before we get out of here. Our boy, my boy, Jay Wack, Dynasty Nerds, man. Shout out to Jared Wackerly, man, and everything. Dynasty Nerds got their damn thing put into the Sleeper app, man. Congratulations to them. That is massive. He just said dropping in to say what's up to two studs. Appreciate you, Jay Wack, and everything that you're doing in the Dynasty space as well. Let's just see what the comments are talking about, man. Let's engage with the people for a couple of minutes. Jay, what do we have? What do we have? Oh,
apparently Aaron Jones is out, eh?
What?
Apparently Aaron Jones is unlikely to play, yeah.
Okay, let me just look real quick. Aaron Jones. Let's see if there's anything on Prize Picks for Jones or Dillon. Nothing for Jones. And nothing for A.J. Dillon. So, yep, they ripped all the lines down. Rubio says Derrick Henry will be scripted out of this game. Got TD Machine. Oh, my bad, Richie. Richie said, I'm over here butchering stuff. He said it's Joe Pesci, not damn Danny DeVito. That's Matilda. I was watching Matilda the other day with the kids. That's Danny DeVito. I know that's Danny DeVito and Matilda. We got Romeo Dobbs time. Jones is out. Anybody else going to be at MetLife tonight? Looks like Jimbo's going to be at the game. And then the Bills will lose to Bailey Zappi. So that means we need to get the hell out of here. Dontavian Wicks over 2.5 catches. Yada, yada, yada. And Purdy for MVP. Jay, who's the MVP for you? We talked about the MVP segment, but who is it before we get out of here? Who's currently the MVP in the NFL for you? And let me just ask you this before we get out of here, because this wraps up the fantasy season, right? This wraps up the regular season for fantasy. Regular season's over. Playoff time, we got to do a superlative show, man. We got to do fantasy MVP, fantasy rookie of the year, fantasy waiver wire find. We got to do a superlative show, talk about all the goodness. But for you, NFL MVP coming out of week 14 is who?
It's very hard because for me, it kind of is Brock Purdy, but at the same time, Dak came out of nowhere, I'd say a little bit more than Purdy did. So I do have to give Dak that credit, but I think when it all comes down to it, it's going to be Brock Purdy. He's got an easier schedule. Dak does have to go through the Dolphins, and if he loses that game, I think at that point, Purdy probably wins the MVP. I expect San Fran to win out, and so for me, it is still Brock Purdy. It's going to be very close down the stretch. If Dak wins at Buffalo and at Miami, there's pretty much no way he loses. Pretty much no way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Brock Purdy is probably in the driver's seat, but if Dak can get through these two games, I do believe that he will wrap up NFL MVP. We only got a couple of weeks from that. The season is winding down. It's almost over, but the beautiful thing is we go 24/7, 365. We do not stop at Destination Devi, so even when the fantasy season is over, we will still be waking up every single morning. We're dropping evergreen pieces of content on the channel. We've got a lot of good stuff coming to you. Make sure you check out everything. Hit that thumbs up button. Like the content. Jay, anything you want to say to people before we get out of here?
No, man, check out Scott Connor's pods. The roster construction series is done, so now you can go through the entire game, the quarterbacks, the running backs, the wide receivers, and the tight ends to better construct your rosters for 2024, especially if you're out of it. It's a great time to go and look at that stuff because there is lots of moves that can be made, especially if you don't have a trade deadline. So make sure you check that out. He finally dropped the last episode of the series, the wide receiver show, probably the most important show. So definitely check that out. And I think that's it for me, right? This week should be a good week of content. I don't know if you're doing any trendy stuff this week.
Yes.
Hopefully some trendy stuff.
I feel so much better.
You're better now, yeah.
GQ was hurt, man. The illness swept through the crib. I'm feeling much better now. And Lindsey Mack, you damn right, Matilda is a great movie. Miss Trunchbull is a very mean principal. Jay, I don't know if you've ever seen Matilda, but it's a very good
I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the play. My cousin played Miss Trunchbull in the play. And so I saw that.
Jay, that feels like a lie, but
it's true.
But I'm gonna let
that's the reason why I know the story about Matilda is because I've seen the movie.
That seems untrue, Jay, but I love y'all. Thank y'all for tapping in the show. Have a great freaking Monday. Make the week dope. Stay tapped into all the content. Make sure you wake y'all asses up on Friday with me and JRich. We out of this thing. Peace.